Hemshech Chaim Beis, Volume 1, up to chapter 159. So, after this marathon last chapter, we concluded that the difference between Kav HaMidah and Knei HaMidah, the difference between the line that measures and the rod that measures, the difference between Chesed, the difference between Gvura and Chesed. One measures and restricts the flow, the other regulates the flow. One restricts the flow only as much as necessary for the next sphere, the next entity to emerge. So think of it like this, like we said, desire has to be restricted in order for wisdom to emerge. Wisdom has to be restrained and restricted in order for midas, feelings to emerge. Chochmah has to be restrained for bina to emerge. And as the gradations go downward, the Gvura intensifies, as he said, because there's more restrictions.
More structure.
More restrictions, actually, restraints. As such, that allows each sphere to emerge, to become an identity, a personality. But then there's a second midah, second measurement, which is the Knei HaMidah, the Chesed one. And that is how much will flow into each sphere from the sphere above. In other words, how much will midas be informed by intelligence? The first one deals with withdrawing and restraining, that it should allow that if your desire is all full intensity, you're not going to be able to use your mind, as we learned. Or if your mind is very intense, the midas feelings won't emerge. But then there's the other way around. That just allows it to be, and but something, a minimal flow travels from Rotzen, let's say Keser, to Chochmah, from Chochmah to Bina, from Meichin to Midas. But then, in maximizing the flow, as the flow extends, if you remember, we talked about maturing the Midas, for example, from Yaakov to go to Yisrael Zuta to go to Yisrael Saba, etc. There, you don't want just the minimum. The minimum is to allow it to be. Now you want the Midas to actually grow based on the intelligence that goes in them, and that's what the Knei HaMidah does. And that's the meaning that the Ovis, or Mamshech, drew down from higher than the Kav HaMidah. The Kav HaMidah regulated the creation of these entities, and the Ovis drew down, as we learned, from Meichin, all the way from Arich, actually, from the source of Ishtalshlus. Not from Atik, not from Pnimius Keser. From the lower levels of Keser, we also learned, the Zayin Tachtenis, but from the highest level of Keser, that Matan Torah will do. And that's also not going to be according to the Kav HaMidah. It's also the Knei HaMidah. So the question is answered. We said at the beginning of the chapter 158, how could you say something is higher than the line that measures? Everything goes into existence through the line that measures. The answer is it's both, because in the line that measures, there's another measurement. In other words, in the pipe, there's, so to speak, another pipe that allows more flow to go through. So it's both higher than the Kav HaMidah, but not higher than Midah. It's not higher than measurement, except it's not defined by the Gvura part of the measurement, it's defined by the other valve, so to speak, the Knei HaMidah. So not by the Psil Pishtan, the string of flax, but by the Knei HaMidah, the rod. That's the summation of what we've learned. And when that happens, it says, is Hamtakus HaGvuras. Kav HaMidah creates Gvura, is more Gvura, as we said, more constraint, more restraint, more limit, more essentially, more law and order. Defining, measuring exactly what yes, what not. It's like a judge tells you deserve this and not this. Very clear delimiting the parameters. Chesed, on the other, comes in and Hamtakus HaGvuras. It sweetens these constrictions and broadens it a little more levity and laxity. And that's what he called Hamtakus HaGvuras. Ola Elikim B'Sruah Havaya B'Kel Shefer. Ola Elikim, that you take Elikim Gvura and your Ola, you elevate it. You elevate it to Havaya, which is Rachamim. And the root, what this is in the spheres, is Chesed and Gvura, which is Kav and Knei HaMidah, or other way, Gvura and Chesed, Kav and Knei HaMidah respectively, are rooted in Chochmah and Bina. Chochmah is more Chesed on the right, and Bina is more the Makar of Gvura, source of Gvuras. And the root of Chochmah and Bina is the Chesadim of Atik is the root of Chachma, and the Gevuras of Atik is the root of Bina. That concludes chapter 158. Some. Obviously 158 also had a whole section on the Avodah of Rotzen and the Rusa Deliba, but we've discussed at length, and we can right now move on. So, we proceed. The journey proceeds. Chapter 159, and we're at the bottom of page 316. Vihine. Now remember, we've covered now Kavim Knei Amida, and we've covered the Ovis. I had a question why he put it in a parentheses. Not really clear. Why did Rebbe Rasha put it in parentheses? The end of the last chapter, it's like it's directly connected to what he was discussing. My only speculation why it's in parentheses is because he really didn't finish the whole topic, and he wants to go over to Teira and the Medida of Teira of Gvura, and this was just almost like giving us a sign that you're on the right track. Sometimes you need a wink, right, to know that this is the meaning. But that's why I speculate why. In other words, remember that these were written before they were Kitzurim and summaries. It was written one flow. So I'm assuming that he wanted to go straight from the Medida, the Brisa Elam, to the line Vihini Medida de Teira. Because what we established now is that there's the Medida Brisa Elam, creation. That's Kav Hamida. Knei Hamida draws in even further. And now he goes, Vihini Medida de Teira. If you remember the beginning of chapter 158, if you recall, he made a case that everything has to go through the Kav Hamida. Why? Because even Teira mitzvahs. Remember we talked about mitzvahs, each one has its parameters, and every mitzvah has its particulars. Teira is Teira of Atzilus, Teira of Bria. So now he's going back now, not the Medida of creation, but the Medida of Teira. So this is the contrast. After we explained the Medida of the measurement and the parameters of existence. And we've defined the measurement and parameters of Knei Hamida, which is more than existence, more than what's necessary, more than the minimal flow that maintains existence. Now comes a new level. Or now comes Vihine now. Amadid the Teira b'chinas Gvura. The measurement in Teira, meaning whatever in Teira is considered measurements and parameters, that's the level of Gvura. V'hainu she'ein zeh kamoi sha'chachma mekabelas b'chinas Chesed da'atikim. The parentheses he's adding a small parentheses as a qualification. This is not how Chachma is receiving. Remember, we said from the source, the Chesed of Atik Gaiman. Kim zeu b'chinas primis v'atzmis ha'Chachma shemekabelas b'chinas Gvura da'atik. So when you say Teira is Medida, we're not talking now the Knei Hamida part. He's basically saying we're not talking about the Chesed part. How Chachma receives from Chesed that we just learned before. However, we're talking about the Pnimis, the core and essence of Chachma receives from Gvura of Atik. V'hu inyan Pnimis Abba Pnimis Atik. And this is the inyan where Pnimis, the inner dimension of Chachma, Abba, Father, is one with the inner dimension of Atik, K'moshe Yisbar, as we shall discuss. So obviously this is a very cryptic little parenthesis. Right, but he said he'll discuss it at length, so I guess we're going to discuss this. But he just wanted to qualify, because in other words, he's explaining how in Teira itself, there's also different levels. So there's the Gevura, this is Gevura. Now remember, there was an earlier discussion, earlier chapters back, he spoke about Primis Chachma and Chetzenis Chachma. Remember, Primis Chachma and Primis Bina reach into the Primis Atik, they are where Chachma touches that which is beyond existence. And we talked about the student and the teacher, the two types, where the student asks questions and he gets superficial answers, and then there's the deeper connection where the student completely applies himself to the teacher, and then he gets pnimius. So we talked about Nekudas Hatamtzis. There was about Hanochas Sichlis. It was back, I think, Kuf Nun, whatever it was. V'agam Shateri he Teiras Chesed, and even though Teira L'Cheir is Teiras Chesed, then we can say Teiras Chesed. Say it many times. Teiras Chesed. Yesh b'zeh gam kein Gevura. It also has Gevura. K'meshe Kosev Miyemini Eish v'dos Loma. Eish. This is from Hazinu. Yeah.
Eish dos Loma.
Eish dos Loma. Eish not the. Right. I'm sorry. I thought it said Eish dos. My mistake. So Eish dos is fire. On the right side, Eish Das is like the fire of Das is religion, Das is faith, whatever. Das, Eish Das. I think what it means, as you know, Eish Das, Lame.
Hashem gave us a Torah through fire.
Yeah. But what did he mean?
That's Gevurah
In his right
Torah.
hand.
That's the Gevurah in Torah.
Das is Torah, huh?
That's the Gevurah in Torah.
Eish.
Eish Das.
Ach HaGevurah, he begins Tagbeirus Keach. However, the Gevurah in Torah is not Gevurah as in like
Holding back.
essentially constriction or limiting, but Tagbeirus, an intensity of power. Say Tagbeirus, overpowering. Tagbeirus Keach. A surge of energy, a surge of power. If you recall, we discussed from the Biur HaZayar, the Alter Rebbe says that Gevurah has two interpretations. Because remember, we spoke in the earlier chapter, there was a piece where he said,
Eish Das means that it was
okay. Yeah.
Like Gibor.
There was a piece that I'm trying to remember what we said. We said like this, and in Biur HaZayar that some of the Admit Rebbe brings from Alter Rebbe like this. That Gevurah, there are two interpretations. One is Gevurah as in restraining, limiting. One is Gevurah as intensity. Gevurah means something is very strong. The other Gevurah is like a limitation. So the Alter Rebbe answers, that's really Habataya. In order to restrain, you need to have more power. That's the key. But this depends what you focus on. So he says it from Tagbeirus HaKeach. Okay. So I skip the Tagbeirus HaKeach. V'hu liyis shaha teira hi hamshachas ha'atzmus. And this is because the Torah is hamshachas ha'atzmus. Torah is one with God. It's God's wisdom. It's God's will. And in order to be mamshech, to draw down, to transmit the atzmus, the core of the divine, you need to have tzorech liz. It has to be a state of tagbeirus keach, an intensification, a power. He gives a few reasons now. Why? One reason. One is because Atzmus is not in a state of transmission or revelation. Atzmus is a core reality. It doesn't lend itself to be expressed. As we talked many times, expression is already a sign of something that is a reflection of, a sign of some manifestation. A core thing is not in the Gedder Amshach Gedder Gili. Therefore, in order to have something that the Atzmus doesn't lend itself to, that is a state of intense power. It would be like someone saying to you, listen, you need to express your innermost intimate feelings. It's not lends itself. Those feelings usually are not expressible. In order to do so, you have to really impose a bigger power to express. Habeiz, second reason, Atmus is not commensurate to be received and contained in the world. Like it says, He's the place of the world, He's the space of the world, and the world is not His space, the world is not His place. So clearly the world is a confined and finite entity. How could it contain Atmus? And because of this, and for this purpose, there needs to be this tagbeirus keach, a type of an extra exertion. That maybe is a good word. Tagbeirus keach, an exertion of additional energy. So the two reasons: one, because Atmus doesn't lend itself to transmitting, and number two, because the worlds are not commensurate. They're limited. So for that to happen, for Torah to be nimshach in this world, you need to have a real surge of what did I say now? Of exertion and more energy. Now, obviously, this is not God doesn't need effort. But it means, in our logic, for something to be revealed of that level, it doesn't come regularly. It's not a regular flow. So if you ask for God, the regular flow for existence is a certain power. But for Hamshachas Ha'atzmus to come into existence, it's like, when the person is, let's say, talented, you go into automatic pilot, you can say something, you can write something, because you're doing things superficially. But if something is required, something really from your core, you can't just give a 5% attention. You have to give all of it. You give all you got. And that's essentially what he's talking about here. Yedua, and it's known, the Chol Tagbeir is Bo B'Yischalkus Protim. And it's known that every intensification, every type of power comes with a distinction, a diversity. Research comes with the diversity of details. Like we say, Gvuras Kshamim, the surge of waters, or you could say the power of rain. Why is it called Gvuras Kshamim? Sheyedim tipin tipin, that which descend drops by drops. Like a mayon, a spring, hamizgaber. Say mayon hamizgaber, a spring that is a power. Hamizgaber mayon. How would you translate mayon hamizgaber? A flowing spring, a powerful spring. Mayon hamizgaber is expression in the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. So he was like a mayon hamizgaber, like a filled with content, like a source of content, like the mouth of the well. But it's mizgaber because it's like continuously flowing. It's not a dying entity. It's a surging entity. But it doesn't surge as in a flood. It's drop by drop. So what is he showing from here? That Gvura, number one, is taka surge, a powerful force, but it comes drop by drop, by details. So we say Gvuras Kshamim is that it doesn't just come, the strength comes in a form of step by step. And it's all one personality. All the water, all these drops are the same thing. They're water, they're the same liquid. It's not different things. However, it transmits in a form of pieces, components, small parts. Because of the surge, because of the intensity.
The Kshamim, I understand. Even if it's raining so hard, it still comes down drop by drop. But a Mayan, I'm not sure how that works.
I never saw a Mayan work, to be honest. But that's what they say.
When there's a rush of water, it's not tippin really.
Maybe it's not the Mayan that you're talking about. You're talking about the rushes already when it's out of the Mayan. No, it's a real source of where the water is coming from deep in the Untergrund.
Under the ground, yeah.
The Tahim. See, what we say, there's a Tahim, there's a Mayan, and there's a Nor. The Tahim is like the Untergrund, what we call in English, I don't even know. It's a source.
Depths of that.
The depths, the inner depths. That in turn is a Mayon, and a Mayon, they say a Mayon is like, let's say, is like a spring that's coming from the deep depths of the earth. And the way it comes is constant drops. It's drops. Maybe it's big drops. I don't know if a geyser, maybe. I'm not sure a geyser is that exactly. A geyser is definitely coming from the inner belly of the earth. He's burst out like that. But it does say in many places that a Mayan is tippin.
Yeah, it says it.
But you see the tippin. I'm not sure exactly. I don't want to conclude here what he's going to say. So I want to finish reading. But it sounds like this. That look, when you have a very, very powerful force, we're talking about Atzmos here. We're talking about, let's say, and you need it to come out because it's very locked. Like for the two reasons he gave. Because it's beyond transmission. So then it bursts forth. It doesn't burst forth necessarily in a flood. It bursts through, like, let's say, think of it like water that's like a liquid in a barrel that is so tight. And then finally, Tagberes Achais is one of the examples. So you have drops that come out, but the drops are coming because of intensity. They're not coming because of weakness. It's not drops as in, I'll only give you a drop by drop. Because it's so intense and it's coming from such a locked place, it bursts out in drops. That's what he's saying here. Instead of a complete flow. Because we're not talking about destroying the barrel. It's like you see this. You ever see like when you see something's about to burst, initially it starts just going the leaks. It just starts seeing drop, drop, drop. That's what he's talking here. Same thing, that's the example. From Shachas Atzmus, when Atzmus is drawn down, that which is specifically only through an intensity, through a particular surge, through an overpowering surge, it comes in a division of details. He's basically reconciling the two elements of Gvura. That the Gvura that we talk Tzimtzum, that is only coming very small bits to the next level, is actually coming because of an intensification, not because of a minimization and minimizing.
If somebody punches somebody in the head, just punches somebody, you're giving him something, but and that's also Gevurah, but you're giving him something at the same time.
I would not compare this. Punching someone in the head? Why would you use that?
You're giving him.
What, a smack? You're giving him...
Give him a smack. You're giving him a smack. It's chesed, but you're not.
No, it's not all what he's talking about.
It says about a father and a son.
It's not related at all to this.
That's a different story.
This is complete. You said is also completely not related to this discussion. You're bringing something that's, I think, from left field that doesn't fit here. He's not talking about chesed and gevura. He's talking about gevura.
When the father hates his son, so then the end of gevura.
That's another reason.
But that's not the...
That's what he's trying to say.
That's what you just said.
That's what you. I think that's what it sounds like you're talking about.
That's not because he's giving him a hand.
No, completely. What you're saying.
The transmission of.
No, it's completely not relevant here. What you're saying is what he's saying. It's gevura sheba. What you said is chesed sheba gevura. That's what you just said. That's not what he's talking about here. He's talking about here the intensity necessary to reveal a very deep level. And to do that, you need to have a special push, a special surge. And when it flows, it flows by drops. That's what he's saying. It's breaking through. It's breaking through. You need a breakthrough here. And a breakthrough happens in drops, not in a complete flow. So basically, two elements of Gvura fit.
At the same time.
Gvura that limits is coming from a very strong power that is holding something that is intense, so intense that it comes out only as in drops. In other words, why would Kesser go into Chachma, or Chachma into Bina, or Bina and Meichen into Midas? It needs an intense power from above, but that intensity ends up resulting in drops, not in. So you only get a minimal flow. When a teacher is just speaking and doesn't limit and constrain his flow, so you get a certain ideas. Now he meets a student that needs a whole different depth. A student that needs a whole different explanation because the student's on a very low level. What does the teacher do? He has to dig deeper. Takberes achayis. He has to go into places he never would have gone to be able to explain it. And then when he explains it, it comes out in very spoon-fed. It doesn't come out as on the contrary, to his better students, he'll flow. He won't have any constraints. But when he constrains himself, you're getting the depth, but you're getting it with drops. And those drops have in them far more power than the regular flow. That's what he's leading to. Okay. So it comes dafka through takberes. That's his chalkas pratim.
It's still not clear why it has to come into drops.
Because then it would overflow, would destroy whatever it's coming from. It would destroy everything.
That's chesed.
He does not talking about chesed. He's talking about gevura here right now.
You're saying that the gevura itself creates the drops.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just gave you an example. When you have a barrel that's so filled and it starts bursting out, it's not going to come. It's going to come in drops, only drops. Those drops are a reflection of a lot of intensity.
Unless it breaks all at once and it comes to the...
Yeah, but we're not talking about breaking. We're talking about controlling that. But you want some. Hamshachas ha'atzmus. He was not coming to destroy. He's coming to reveal. But revelation from a place that's not a regular place of revelation will come in drops.
It's going to leak through the barrel.
I just gave you an example of the teacher and student. What's the problem with that teacher?
To go into himself.
Even the barrel.
The gevura, he needs to go gevura to.
It's going to leak through the barrel.
That's a lot of intensity. The intensity to express, but what the expression is going to be very simple and very slow because that took a lot more. It takes a lot more to say something in short than to say something long.
And then there's no stira, obviously.
It's just a question what it's rooted in. It may be from the student's perspective, he's only seeing the drops.
Right.
But from the teacher's perspective, there's the intensity. And one day the student will appreciate that. In other words, the restraint that a wise person exercises is far, far more powerful than his expressions. What he doesn't say.
Now I understand.
Actually, it has to come in drops, or else it then is back to the regular flow. We're not talking about a regular flow. We're talking about something that is not regularly expressed.
It's being regulated. That's the power.
If a person truly speaks from his heart, the deepest feelings, you can imagine that it's going to come out very slowly, very deliberately. He's not going to just start talking like we can talk gossip for hours. Because you're going to a very deep place that's usually not expressible. So when you start expressing it, you're going to express it in very short, abbreviated expressions. You ever see people talk really about the deepest things in their lives? They're very slow, comes out very patiently. It's not, they just open up. Very deep. It's very, whether it's painful or it's good things. Well, let's finish. He's in the middle of the subject. The Einze is chalkus.
That's real.
Yeah. The Einze is chalkus. He said with the water, it comes out in drops. The chalkus is only the way it's coming out, drops. It's not as chalkus fundamentally different things are coming out. It's the same thing in drops. So Einze is chalkus. In the Torah, this when we're talking about Hashachas Atzmus, when we say chalkus, we mean it flows in a drop by drop way. But it's not true. The differences of things. It's the same personality. The Ischalkus is not because you're giving different things, it's because the Tagberis is so intense, so that causes it to come piece by piece. So you're basically getting the same thing, instead of getting it in one big flow, you're getting it in little pieces. Remember we learned about Pishtan before, that it grows bad by bad. That individuality, the individual. Remember, all this is about Torah, Ejdos. So this is the Protei HaMitzvos in Torah. Like tzitzis and film. In the beginning of chapter Kuf Nun Ches, he used tzitzis, film, and Shabbos, I believe. Right?
I think so.
Yeah. Tzitzis and film. And similarly,
only in regards
to Lavzman film, right? So when you look now at details in the mitzvahs and Torah, this is a very fundamental piece. The details. So you could say details. Listen, we live in a world of details. Everything has details. Every machine has details. Everything in life has. Now, in the mitzvahs, the details of mitzvahs, the different elements of mitzvahs, the diversity is the opposite. It's coming from an atzmazdika place. Not coming from a limited place where things are distinct because they're just limited flow of energy, so therefore there's a difference between a plant and an animal. That's not how mitzvahs work. Mitzvahs are all coming from one place, but because the Tagboyus is coming from such a revealing and intensity, a surge from a deeper place, they come into distinctions. So he says, Shezeh b'chinas ischalkus haprotim. It's hatagbeirus ha'atzmus. It's gabrus ha'atzmus. Hatagbeirus ha'atzmus. It's gabrus ha'atzmus. V'akol b'chinas ha'atzmus ein sof. All the mitzvahs are all part of atzmus ein sof. But because they are, in other words, mitzvahs are not just God wanted you to do this or that. It's actually His expression of His deepest inner self. That's what mitzvahs are. So they come drop by drop, mitzvah by mitzvah, each differently. Though they are all the same personality. However, but not yet. The mention of the core atzmus doesn't come in one detail. But in a multitude of details, his gabrus hatigberis. I'm sorry. Sometimes it's gabrus and it's tigberis. Before was also hatigberis atmos. I'm sorry. So there's hatigberis v'akol b'chinas atmos, and everything is in a state of atmos.
A minute ago you said atmos ain't so, but if you misread it, it's kol b'chinas atmos. It's been to atmos ain't so. It was like or.
Kol b'chinas atmos ain't sof.
Says ain't so.
Says ain't sof. B'chinas atmos ain't sof.
Rock. Yeah.
Then comes the rock.
Oh yeah. So, but his atmos himself is atmos himself is or, right?
Who said?
No.
Atmos himself, I've told you many times, is a very general term. Depends where it's using it. Atzmus Ein Sof simply means the core of Ein Sof. You can't synonymize it with Or. Maybe or may not be.
He's striking me back.
It's the Atzmus of Elikus.
He's been talking Atzmos the whole time. All of a sudden it's Atzmos Ein Sof.
It's the same thing. It's interchangeable in most cases. Unless he says otherwise. If he wants to say otherwise, he'll tell you. He's talking about Eir Blikvul. Here he's not.
5 times he mentions Atzmos, so all of a sudden it's Atzmos Ein Sof.
Why he added Ein Sof? He could have said it before too, frankly. It's the same level. I don't think it's maybe here he wants to emphasize it more. It's not, no, that's not. It's all. See, he's talking about the same level. He's not changing levels here. It's very common in Chassidus. It's in writing. You don't have to always say the same thing exactly every way the same way. Look, he says the next line. Shebchinas Atzmus ain't above prat. And the line before is Gabrus Tigberis Atzmus.
Is it possible?
Because now he's saying the level that all the mitzvahs are the level of Atzmus Ein Sof. He doesn't have to say Ein Sof every time.
But is it possible that the whole, from the beginning of the chapter till now, he's talking about not actually the Atzmus, but he's talking about the Atzmus Ha'ed. It's possible. I mean, it is possible, right?
But it's not relevant. That's the point. That doesn't make a difference here. It's not relevant in the picture what we're discussing at this point. Maybe at some point he'll he's going to say that Torah is going to be an interface, and Torah probably has many levels in it. Here he's not going into like Loy Nochis is called. Right now, it's not relevant to discuss the elements of the levels of Eir from previous Mamorim.
No, but when we say the Titus from Atzmus, could mean that he means from Atzmus Eir.
I would say, since he doesn't say it, I would just leave it at that. Atzmus. Always, when we talk about Atzmus, there's always deeper levels and so on. But Torah goes all the way to the root. Esi Atin Lik. You tell me what is that. And you could say what you're saying. You could say about anything.
Yeah.
Whenever you say Atzmus, you can say he means Eir Atzmus.
Yeah.
Here he's not. Here I would just say he's talking about this is basically referring to the core of God as opposed to his flow to create.
The Godhead.
Because you mentioned many times
he's not going into the. You could say anytime you say Atzmus, it means a level of Eir. But there's levels in Eir itself. There's Eir HaKolol, Eir Kodim Kekadmuse, the Eir HaMispashet, Eir Legal. I don't know. No, I would not at all go there. How do you know? It doesn't say. At this point, I would just say simply, it's.
So when you say Atzmus, there's no level.
Anyway, what should I tell you? I keep telling you. You want, if you can find a hint, then find it. I am telling you, I can't.
But the mind, everything is even higher than mitzvahs. A mitzvah and aved is the same thing.
And even higher than that, they're not the same. It also says if you go deeper. So it depends how far you go. But you said there's also a certain level. The level where, the pnimis is there is a difference. It's more complicated. It's a different subject matter. You're bringing now a subject that's completely. Basically, we do not say there's anything higher than Torah. You never say that God could have not given the Torah. Torah and Atzmus go hand in hand. Because then you get into a whole problem. Then you could say that maybe there's another Torah. There could have been a different Torah. Spheres, you say there could have been infinite spheres. But you never say there could have been infinite mitzvahs. You never hear that. So that's why be careful, because you're dealing here. It says the Rebbe Rashab has a whole sikh in Tereshom called the mitzvahs misyachsas al atzmus. We see mitzvahs as not arbitrary. Sfiras, you could say yes. Once you have 10 sfiras, that's what God wants. But we do speak about sfiras ein ketz. You don't speak about mitzvahs ein ketz.
Wow.
So it means that there's something core and fundamental about Torah mitzvahs that's beyond even the structure of existence.
Wow.
That's really what he's saying here.
Wow.
So I wouldn't go how deep it goes. We don't know. All we know is as deep as we can get it, because we don't have any other connection to Atzmus except through Torah. Remember, you open up a door, then there's maybe another way to get to Atzmus without Torah mitzvahs.
What door?
The door of possibility, it's called.
That's what the secular say. They could get to Atzmus through.
Fine, but Chassidus and Torah doesn't say that. You say Matan Torah was once and never be again, and this is God's Torah.
Do we know
this is God's plan.
Do we know there actually is a door of possibility?
There is no such one. The possibility of tshuva, but tshuva is not going a different path. It's if you fall, God allows you to reach a place that's higher than Torah, so to speak, to repair.
Torah lets you go higher than Torah somehow.
because Torah is elikus. For all practical purposes, you have to apply Torah here as Amshachas Atzmus, as the etzem of the divine coming into us. And usually you're going to find places where you talk about Torah being at the level of, in Samach Vav, and I'm sure in Ayin Beis he's going to talk whether it's Chayui, V'Gamuhi, Eris, Kalim, Neshamas, and Teda. But that's a whole different discussion. Then you're talking about Neshamas, Teda, and Elokus. You know, this expression is Araisa, B'Kudsha B'richu Kul Echad. It's a very strong statement. You don't say that about anything.
If you don't say Araisa B'Atzmus, you say Araisa B'Kudsha B'richu is also level.
That refers to Atzmus. But that means nothing else is said at the Kudsha B'richu. Even though God gives energy and life to everything.
Yisrael.
Okay, so there you go. Yisrael.
Same level as Teda.
The first Rashi in Chumash. And then the question, Mi Kadmon L'mi. But even that needs a long discussion. What means Neshamas? What does a Neshama mean? So why are there Neshamas of Atzilus and Bria if everything is Kul Echad? What's the difference between, we all go through stages, so then what's the difference between a Jewish Neshama and non-Jewish? It's not for here. One day we'll get
Torah 2,000 years Kodem to people, so that means it was always...
For all practical purposes, just say the following. We talk about the energy that goes into create Kav HaMidah. We're talking about Knei HaMidah, which is like Chesed, extra flow. Now he's going and discussing Teda. Where's Teda fit in? Teda is clearly Hamshachas Atzmos. By Matan Teda, Eisi Atam Lechem. I'm not nafshik ksavis yavis. I God said, I have inscribed myself in these words. So that's what we need to know. So for practical purposes, this is the highest level. Is it the highest? We'll discuss. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But right now, relative to what we're discussing, it's clearly Atzmos. And for the two reasons, it has to come through Takbeirus, through a particular surge and intensified energy. And it comes through Ischalkus. That's what the mitzvahs are. So mitzvahs are the drops. And they're all essentially one.
It couldn't have been any different. That blows me away.
That's why quantum doesn't work all the way. Remember, God is not bound by quantum either. Quantum is also a state.
I thought he wasn't bound by Torah until I just learned it. It's amazing.
If you're not bound by Torah, what are we doing here?
No.
Why are we doing? I'd be the first.
If I found when you said
he wasn't
that's his core, and it couldn't be anything else. He had a. That's to me a mind-blowing thing.
Well, in Torah Shalom even says this about Jews, that but God couldn't have chosen anyone else. Who could he have chosen? Even with the Achias.
Where's the Becharbano? And what does that mean?
There's long discussions about this.
Okay.
What does it mean? Well, what means Bechira by God? Can God choose evil? If choose is free choice. It's not so pashut. You have to know what free choice doesn't mean that you could choose from either or. That's a teva already. That's already a manifestation. It's not. It doesn't belong. This discussion. It's a legitimate discussion, but it's not this sugya. That's all I want to tell you. It's a completely fine to talk about, but really just distracting. And for me, it doesn't let me concentrate on this. It's very simply put. It's a different discussion. It's a fascinating. Don't get me wrong. It's very fundamental, and I'm more than happy to have it. Let's save it for Sunday.
Today,
No. Look. I always say this. This issue really bothered anyone. Why don't you just bring it up at a time? You could do it on Sunday or another time. I'm happy to order. At the end of a class, before a class, it's fine. It's not. If it was 5 minutes, I would say something. It's not 5 minute discussion. It's a real long sugya, what bechira means and so on. The point, bottom line, is that mitzvahs are atzmizdike powers, and they come out from the intensity, so they come into distinction. It's a very powerful point. Look, the Ragat Shavar says, "Kol ha'esek min ha'mitzvah poter min ha'mitzvah." Why? Because all the mitzvahs are kol from one another. They all have the other within it. So it's not when he's saying it's poter. It's not that it's absolving you. It's because when you're doing this, the time that you have to do this, essentially the other mitzvah is also being performed. But then there's an expression, he brings this in Samach Vov, that commanda Ovad lo yamrina is still lacking. That's why when Rabbi Hamnuna Saba, the story with the Yenuka, that the child saw that he didn't miss the mitzvah. So yes, he had the right to miss it because he went for Achnasas Kalo, that whole story. But he sensed in the Levushim that he's missing a mitzvah. So we say, why is he missing if he had it through that mitzvah? Because the bottom line, he didn't have that birur, that specific. But there is an element in mitzvahs that they're all really one. The Ratzonal, God's will. Just pointing out, I don't know if he's going to bring this. So there's an element of etzem, then there's an element that you need this mitzvah, specifically this one. Here he's focusing on that the distinctions are coming as a result of, they're all like the drops of water. All the mitzvahs are really the same. And the reason they come separately is because of the tagberes. He's not talking about the actual difference between what tzitzis is different than tefillin, which is also part of the kavanah. Because you could argue, what do you mean? How could you compare tzitzis and tefillin to 2 drops of water? Water are the same, literally the same. Tzitzis and tefillin are not the same. But in some way they are the same. As far as Ratzon HaElyon goes, they're the same. He's not talking about now the differences between them, which is interesting. He's saying right now that they're all...
But the mashal to show that they're different, but they're from the same source.
Yeah, so that's what he says. So let's go. Here. So he goes, "V'zeu prote mitzvahs. These are prote mitzvahs, different mitzvahs. So it's chalkas apart. Misad atagberes atzmus, akol b'chinas atzmus ein sof. Actually, b'chinas atzmus ein above b'fra. Maybe the reason he says ein sof here is because he wants to emphasize that actually, even though they're distinct, they're all part of the infinite one. Not gvul. Maybe that's why he's adding it. Laksha b'chinas atzmus ein above b'frat echad kim b'ri b'prat. Misad atagberes. So just like there's a distinction between one mitzvah and the next, tzitzis and tefillin, also there's a measurement and a distinction in the mitzvah itself and how you do it. The Torah explains and interprets and explains the mitzvahs. They have to be done a certain way, precise way, as we learned in the beginning of Kuf Nun Ches, bottom of the page in your base. The ma'acher shabob chinas is chalkus pratim, because after the mitzvahs come into a distinction of details, hariyesh medida be'eze efen nimshach. So there's a measurement, there's a parameters. In what way will it be transmitted? Now, when the mitzvah is done in this precise way, then you have amshachas hatzmus there. So the details of how a mitzvah is done is also part of this process. When you do it that way, you have the amshachas ha'atzmus. What's not being explained here is, so far, we understand that the details, like the drops that come from the rain or the mayon or from the spring. But the question really here is, why is it so critical to do these mitzvahs differently? Because that's the kavanah. The kavanah wants it to be done differently. But from the perspective of Tagberes HaChayda, they're all one. It's just coming into different forms of expression. That's something is missing in the Havana of that. If you know what I'm asking. Okay, but
2 dimensions in the mitzvah is the way. They're all Ratzon Hashem.
Let's see how he's going here. I have to see how he concludes, because I don't want to. Okay. So this is also the medida how the mitzvah is done, because since it's coming in a schalkus and drops, if it all came one flow, then okay, it's one big thing. But they actually come drop by drop, so therefore there's a way how this drop expresses what Atzmus wants. And if you don't do it that way, you don't have that Atzmus Dikei Hamshach. V'hainu, k'shamitzri ba'efen kavgach nimshach b'zem shach Atzmus.
It's a very key line. Very key line.
Of course, because it's leikuva. It's
you always mention it because there are spiritual people say that I can connect to God on a spiritual level.
Exactly.
The details are not important.
Remember, this is very very reminiscent of things we spoke earlier. If you remember, that mitzad oir, all the mitzvahs are one, like Torah. Remember, he said Torah, or the opposite. The Torah, there's a distinction. Every person learns according to their way in the beginning. And mitzvahs is ratzon in a keser, so unites everything. But I don't want to go there because I don't know if that's what he wants to say here. Yeah, but it's definitely connected.
If you don't do it correctly,
yeah,
like abundance or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And over b'zman badl karbonei. It's like not 1 second late. You don't have it. Yeah.
If you do something more, even chayiv misa. Can you imagine?
Now he's saying v'gam b'teira guf. Remember, this is mitzvahs. He's going back to the beginning of Kuf Nun Ches, where he said all 3 things. The mitzvahs are different. Each mitzvah has a precise way of doing it. And now in Torah itself, he means Torah itself, learning Torah, in other words. Hu amshachas atzmus, he amshachas atzmus. V'tzarech li b'zeh medida shemitzad his hatakberes. And there has to be also in Torah itself a medida. In other words, Torah, not just what Torah commands, the mitzvahs of Torah. V'zeu shemedida de Torah b'chinas gvura. So remember, we learned this at the bottom of that page, chapter, as I said, the bottom of Shin Yud Beis, 312. That Teira Atzilus, Teira Abriya. So he's saying all this now, he's summing it up. So, because Teira is Amshachas Atzmus, there has to be a medida, a measurement because of this intensity. I know it's counterintuitive, because you usually think of intensity as being not measured. The intensity is being, a surge. So you got a lot of power coming. But you have to remember, you're talking about a surge from Atzmus, that he said those two reasons. That is, by nature, not an expressor, and two, the containers are not commensurate. So that was what. So if Atzmus was just expressing himself, period, to nobody, there's no need of anything. But since there is an element of these two elements that require an intensity, the flow is a measured one. So that's to be measured. And this is what we're saying in the beginning of the chapter, that the medida of Teira, the measurements in Teira, is a state of Gvura. Heim bam shachas ha-Teira, both in the transmission of Teira, shezeu b'chinas takberis ha'atzmus, v'heim beifani ham shachas the mitzvahs. So both the Teira, takberis ha'atzmus, in a sense like when it says, Vayered Hashem al har Sinai shvuos, Matan Teira, the gods descended. So Teira itself, there was that type of the Teira itself came down in a very detailed way. Like for example, Teira is made up of psukim, of words, and so on, and hein and same, and also both in that and also in Beifani, and how the mitzvahs are transmitted. V'akol hu hamshachas atzmus, and everything is the hamshach of atzmus. Umashi yesh chilukim b'Teira k'mei Teira satzilus b'Teira b'Briya. Actually, now he's saying something else. So what means the medida of Teira itself?
Before he said it was the Amshach.
Because no, besides mitzvahs, what's the medida of Teira itself? Not sure. Does he mean that I think he means maybe the fact that Teira has parameters. There's that many psukim and words and things, and there's a beginning and there's an end. The Teira is not Ein Sof. I mean, Saruchem Eretz Midah, but the Teira itself has 305,804 words.
Yeah,
letters, rather.
I think it's even more than that.
Okay, but he's saying this. And that which we say there's difference in Teira that we learned earlier, the Teira Atzilus, Teira Abriya, right? Again, the bottom of Shin Yud Beis, he spoke about that from Arizal. Al Teirascha Shalom Adatona, the Pirush B'Kisar is Al Teirascha Beis Atzilus Shalom Adatona. There's levels how Teira descends. A second. Yeah. He says, he qualifies that. Zel Beifana Giluyim Be'elamus. That's the way, that's in the methods of how it's revealed in the world. In other words, it's not really the fundamental medida of Teira. He's qualifying now that he doesn't mean that. I mentioned that it's saying it's not that. That's already, once the Teira comes down, it's like the Teira comes to one student one level, another student another level. That's not a fundamental medida.
He's saying
Yeah. No, but I'm trying to distinguish. What he's talking medida, gvur of Teira, means that the Teira itself, as it emerges from Atzmus, has in it a defined entity. This is I know where he's going with this now. I understand. This is part of the interface. He's trying to bring medida into an Atzmizdika place. Remember, till now, the domain of measurement was where? Kalim, Kreich HaGvul, Rishimu, the Eir HaGvul even.
Now you're showing even the
right, exactly.
The Shir Atzma?
But the Shir Atzma is already in the Bli Gvul, he's being Meshayos. I wouldn't use that. That Shir Atzma is probably, I'm not sure, Shir Atzma, but he wants to show that in Bli Gvul there's Medida, basically.
In the highest levels.
And maybe that's why he mentions Ein Sof again. No, there's a Medida Atzmis. Like you could say, you know what, why am I doing a mitzvah with this Shir? Okay, because we live in a world, there's really Shiurim. You have to have how much matzah can I eat? You know? Or I mean, you could define it, but if you think of that Atzmus, before there was a Welt, he wanted Shir. Atzmus wants this size Beis HaMikdash.
Before there was Shir, he wanted Shir.
Exactly. So then Shir takes on a whole different meaning. A Medida, then it's an Atzmus, just like he wants Bli Gvul, he wants Gvul. And that's it. That's where he's going. So Teira represents that. Teira represents a Gvul aligned with Atzmus. As opposed to Welt, the world represents a world that is God's structure. It's almost going back to the artist. The artist makes the painting on the wall. The paint and the picture is Gvul. But the message, the spirit that he wants to convey is bli gvul, but it's a bli gvul that you see through the gvul. That's how I would explain it. So yes, it's starting to emerge. It's very fast, very powerful.
When he says...
So if a mensch could look at his medidus of his world as simply atzmas dika medidus, that you should be like this. Not because it's a limit. It's takbeirus achayis. But it comes in limit simply because that's when something comes from such an atzmas dika place. That's why it comes in structure.
No, but we always say geris when they get that.
That's, your get that because of our limitations. Because we are
maybe that's
bound. By the way, if it's atzmas dika get, you're already out of it. The etzem. But the pashtus, it means because you have to feel it. If you felt that it was taka atzmas dika get, in other words, if a person says, I don't want to be bound to put on tefillin only by day, I want to put it by night. Arish from the Gedarim. That's not the kavanah. Arish from the Gedarim means Arish from the Yeshus. Arish from the Gedarim from mitzvahs. So mitzvahs are... in other words, the discipline of mitzvahs is really atzmas dika Gedarim. It's when we decide what we want. Yeah, of course, I want to do whatever I want. So that's Arish from the Gedarim. That's not...
We're tzitzis at night.
Anyway, we'll learn more about this, but this is a very interesting chapter. Very interesting.
On the bottom.
Okay, so that's Giluyim Be'elim. So that's Giluyim. That's not it. So one second.
It says the same words.
Yeah.
He says about Taras Atzilis and Taras Priya.
So he's saying now this, yeah. But no, it's different between here and there. There he was talking to show that all mitzvahs need medida, and that the question is, therefore, why? How could you say it's higher than kava midah? Here he's going that the medida of Torah is a medida atzmis. He's not talking like that, and that's why he's qualifying and saying Torah Atzilis is not like what he, not just he's not. Their focus on medida was measurement, not on atzmis dika measurement. There was medida, that everything has measurement, Torah, mitzvahs, and everything. Here, derech mashal ba'adam sheyesh le mekayme shu nimtza sham v'yachaliyas atzmus nimtza shlei b'mekayme. For example, a person that has his place where he finds himself, where he, and it could be that while he's there, that's you could be sitting here, but his core is like makom shemachshavte shalodam. I don't know if he's going to bring that, but that really your core, you're else somewhere else. He feels
restless. He feels he doesn't belong here.
Yeah. Okay, one second. So let me correct.
It's really someplace else.
Okay, that's how I said it, but I think he finds himself there, but he doesn't feel really comfortable that his etzem belongs there. His etzem really belongs elsewhere.
He doesn't feel he belongs there.
It's interesting, yeah. He doesn't feel he belongs. You ever have that feeling?
But he's trying to say
you ever have that feeling? You don't feel like you belong? Okay, you found your chapter.
You're all my chapters.
Right. Exactly,
because it's coming from the inner core.
And this, for him to find himself not b'mkemi, comes from an intense thing, because naturally you're here, so you're here. I'm not sure what this means. What means b'takberes? In other words, he needs a special imposing upon himself a special energy.
The depths of his atzmius,
he's not finished.
He doesn't.
Let me continue on. I'm not sure what this means exactly. The difference is that b'mkeme, where he is, that's where he is revealed. That's where you see him, talks and so on. And what is not in his place is not revealed.
Two ways, by the way. Two ways.
This is nicht pashat. One second. Hold on. I got to think about this a second. I got to think. You have two ways. I don't yet know one way. Hold on. Well, I'm wondering what he means. I'm going to give an example and tell me what you think. Does he mean, let's say a person is sitting at a party, at a table. It's not where he really, his heart is really at. His soul is not there. He doesn't belong there. He doesn't even feel he belongs. He goes through the motions. He's sitting there. So there's a takbeirus kayach because he needs to put a lot of effort
to stay there.
Well, that's the thing, to stay there, but also to really to keep his spirit free of that place, to be elsewhere. No, it's to stay there. He doesn't need any extra energy. He's in automatic pilot. He's just going through motions. He needs Tagberes Keich to be elsewhere. Is that what he means? Or does he mean? Well, maybe it's the same thing. That he's restless. That he's in a place that he doesn't want to be, and he's restless. And the restlessness is the additional power
The Tagberes
to be elsewhere.
is to put him somewhere where he's not.
Exactly.
No, in other words,
Also,
by
it's
the
too
party
nice.
itself. It's
What's that? What's that? So, because where he is what you see, the revealed part of him. So someone will say, where are you? You say, where you mean? Ask me where I'm sitting. I'm sitting in my chair. Where am I? I'm 100 miles away.
Right, that's one
Basically,
way to touch it.
that's
one way to touch it.
how would you touch another way?
I would touch it this way also, but there's another way I just thought that you could touch it.
Go ahead.
He's relaxed, he's bizgalus, he's aufgelegt. Where he belongs, he's bizgalus. He's like withdrawn, he feels he doesn't belong there, he's bizgalus. He's like...
Yeah, but it's not. But he's talking about the etzem. He's not talking about. See, he's the same person. No. The same person. We're talking about the same. We're not talking about a person that he's in a place where he doesn't belong. He's in a place, but his etzem doesn't belong there. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So either way, so bottom line is
Sure.
the Tagberes Hachayis.
It's the world.
Tagberes Keich. Okay, let's read on, and maybe it'll come clear.
Then maybe we'll.
Yeah. Usually the Lamaila explains as Lamata, other than the other way around. The Rebbe Rashab is so, like it says about what does it say about that? By him Shvil L'Rakia was more clear to him than Shvil L'Nardah. The Shmuel was that it said by Shmuel that the roads in heaven, it was clearer for him than the roads in his city that he
He
lived.
had a GPS.
What is it? When he went over the out with the Friedrich Rebbe and he was at that party, I see it in the video, the party in New Jersey, and he seemed like so out of place. The Masfid, what do they call it?
Yeah, that's
It's in the Masmid.
It's the Masfid, yeah.
That's by Kramer.
I always think of him sitting there with the Balabat.
By Kramer.
Yeah.
And what about the Friedrich Rebbe himself sitting in the
I
Balbat?
saw the video and I can realize it,
In
Yeah.
his house, yeah. Kramer's house.
Yeah, it's a very nice video. It's beautiful to see the Friedrich Rebbe
so out of
smoking.
place. He's sitting there like, he has to deal with Balabatim. I mean, wow.
But did you see the one with the Friedrich Rebbe sitting by the Bar Mitzvah?
Yeah.
And the people are speaking, and Friedrich Rebbe is sitting like that, smoking a cigarette.
That's by his bar mitzvah?
It's also Kramer's.
Kramer's.
Both. The other one's not Kramer. I think the other one's like a Mlava Malka, where it's two separate things. Yeah, there's a chassidim from a different place. Let's read on because it's true. I don't want to come to Vachiluku shemekemu bizgalus shlemekemu ena bizgalus. Yeah, that's clear. It's ena bizgalus because it's somewhere else. He's not. You don't know where he's at. You don't see his mind. Okay. V'gam b'zeh yesh chilukim. And also in this itself, there's differences. Shebemokim zeh hu bizgalus yeser. Ubemokim zeh she'ena bizgalus kol kach.
That's what I think you could also interpret.
So the difference is that in one place he's more revealed. Mokim zeh, another place is not so much revealed. How does that fit in here?
That's the second interpretation I told you. I thought it means that he's bizgalus. That he's there, he feels comfortable with it. He belongs there, so then he's bizgalus.
That's right.
But he's not comfortable. We know that it says she'ena b'mkeim. Atzmus is not b'mkeim.
If he's not b'mkeim,
that's what.
that's the other thing. If he's not b'mkeim, then he doesn't.
But it's not if not. We're talking about one scenario here. That he's in a place, but his atzum is not in this place.
That's what we have to make.
That's the scenario. There's no two scenarios here.
B'mkeim, bizgalus. Shalei b'mkeim, it's two different things.
No, one second. Again, you read a line, you don't read context. The context. He's starting with a scenario. A person is in a place, in a certain place, but his etzem is not there. There's no other scenario. You give me.
I agree with you with that one.
What's up?
Maybe you could read it.
No, but what else? What else? That's a scenario. You could explain it to 50 ways, but I don't see another scenario. When he says she'ena b'mkeim, he means the atzmus she'ena b'mkeim. Not that the atzmus of him that's not in his place. You're suggesting that he's talking a new scenario where sometimes you feel comfortable, in some places you don't feel like this is your place. And I think he's talking about one scenario.
Your place is coming from your atzmos. Why don't you feel it's your place? Because it's coming from your atzmos.
Exactly.
So therefore, you're more with.
And that part is not. That's exactly pshat. Yeah, that I don't see another interpretation. What you just said.
It's really the same interpretation, but it's two ways to look at it.
But I want to see where he's going to. But now he says, and then it says, and this itself, there's also more bizgal, less bizgals. The v'chlol the shalebim kemei, any bizgals kemei kemei. In general, it's where shalebim kemei is not as revealed as it is in bim kemei in this place. Like shebezeh gufa yesh chilukim im shemizgal yesu yishein mizgal kolkach. I think shebezeh means shalebim kemei. Let's see Lamaila, and then we're going to try to figure out this mashal a little better. I'm having challenges with this mashal. Parts of it I understand. Of course, we'll read it as much as we have to read it. The example above is Kavyachol, B'dugma Lamaila Kavyachol Diksiv. Remember, all this is coming to explain, I'm not even sure what. It looks like Teres Hatzilus, Teres Abri is Giluyim. That in the Giluyim there's a difference, but in the Etzem is elsewhere. That's what it looks like.
Or the fact that
he's not talking about Dir B'Tachton, he's talking about Torah. That's why I ignored what you're saying. What you're bringing is a different picture. He's talking about Torah now. The revelation of Torah, and there's how Torah is in the core and the Medida. I think there's two ways Torah is measured. That's my guess, but let's see. The example above is Kavyachol, Diksiv Baruch Kved Hashem Keimei.
Keimei from his place.
Right. That blessed is Baruch Kved Hashem. Blessed is the covenant of Hashem from His place, in His Mim Kemei, from His place. Uksiv Kini Hashem Yetzim Mim Kemei. And then there's a post that says, Kihini now behold, Hashem left His place, from His place. Sheyesh b'chinas Mekemei ha'atzmi, sheb'chinas is Galus ha'atzmus. Well, we see from this that there's two things. There's God in His place, and then when He leaves His place.
I think it has also elements of the second interpretation that I told you. Where's his natural place? His natural.
Let's finish. We're going to have to go back on this for sure. Let's just see. Let's see where he's going with this. So we have how he's the Mekemei, Prince's Galsa Atzmus. And this we don't know. What is this core, essential place where God is? The Eichu is Galsa Atzmus, and how is Atzmus revealed? Ve'ef Shalem, he adds in the parentheses, and maybe you can say that his place is how he sees his perspective. In God's inner core knowledge, everything is his place. Everything is his core place. He's not ever out of his place. Everything is part of the Godhead, as you said, of his reality. And everything is going to reveal where Atzmus, everything is Atzmus, and everything is revealed Atzmus. So he's saying you have to say this is even higher than self-awareness, because Yediyah is already God being aware means a state. That there's a state where everything is just part of the God space. No space, it's not space as we know it. But when we're saying God, God's comfort zone, God's comfort space. It's very, very deep stuff here now. Oh boy. Exactly. We're going to have to do a lot of discussion on this. That's how he is in the space. And then as he leaves the space, Kavyachol, so to speak. And then there's how he leaves the space. He goes in a state of revelation outside of his natural space. What means his natural space? On his terms, on God's terms. This is Hainu Be'elamis. This is how it is in the world. Shabi Diyasan, here goes already in a parenthesis. Shabi Diyasan from the perspective of the worlds, in other words, not the perspective of Atzmus. From the perspective of Atzmus, nothing is outside of his space. But from the perspective of the creation, they're outside, because we don't relate to his space. That's what it means, that his space, that the world is not his space, the world is not his place. Not that from He's everything. He defines on his terms what space is. But from our perspective, it's not that way. And in this, there's a difference whether the divine is revealed more or is not revealed so much. The chutzlim keme. Oh boy. Turns the whole thing upside down. Because before, it sounded like he's in his mekeme. My whole example, I think I'd misunderstood. Adam yeshle mekeme shunim tzasham. But then he says, Yachal is atzmusin nimtza shalebim keme.
Yeah, but then he goes on to explain what he means.
Two more lines.
I will, okay.
When a person is in his natural place comfortably, he's more bisgalus.
Who inyan teres atzilus v'teres abriya, and that's the inyan of teres atzilus and teres abriya. How much he's revealed out of his place. Yeah. V'kol hu hamshachas ha'atzmus, and everything is the transmission of atzmus shenimshach mizgala be'elmus, the transmitted and revealed in the worlds. And then he says, "This is always chachas the matan teira liyas b'chinas hamshachas ha'atzmus." This is the chiddush of Matan Torah to bring down Hamshachas HaAtzmos, which is also through Kav HaMidah and Knei HaMidah, in other words. That's where it looks like it's going. Okay, my friends, I need to read this a few times. You all have it clear?
It doesn't make sense. It could be what the...
I'll tell you where I'm thrown. I'm just tell you where I'm thrown here. Maybe I'm having some blocking. If he had said in the example, just bear with me a moment. One second. Then I would have understood it. I guess that's what he's really saying.
Yeah, he's saying that.
You know what I'm saying? Because then it goes like this. In the Nimshal, it's very clear. He's basically saying there's how Atzmus is in his own, let's call it his own reality, on his terms. Basically the way before existence created, everything. Whatever it is, existence, no existence, whatever, and that level, this is Atzmus. What's Begoli is Atzmus. Then he chose and wants to create worlds. And in the worlds, from their perspective, it's not Mekayme of Atzmus. Again, from Atzmus' perspective, everything's Mekayme. But from their perspective, it's not Mekayme. So there, he's not really revealed. Or he's revealed somewhat.
It's Helen, Leolam.
That's the Nimshal, for sure. But the Moshel, why would he then say that a person is in a place and his Atzmus is elsewhere? Well, that's what he's saying. That the Geibishter is here in the worlds, but his etzem is elsewhere, meaning not begoli, or maybe begoli, and here he's not so begoli. That's another thing. Where is more begoli? Where his etzem is, or where he is? It's in the mashal. It seems that if you're in a place you don't want to be, so your etzem is concealed and your chesenius is revealed. Here it seems opposite. The etzem, where your etzem is, that's where it is revealed, and here you're concealed. You understand what I'm saying? That's where I'm a little confused. And the moshel, what's the moshel adding?
Is it possible that you didn't translate correctly? I mean, I don't want to say.
Maybe.
You were saying this perspective of the world. Is it possible to Yidiyah that it is respective of Atzmos?
Yidiyah is Lashon Abed. Yidiyah it should have said.
No. Yidiyah there.
Who's there?
There Yidiyah, the Elamis.
Who's there?
The way God's speaking about
God is not plural. Then it should say you should be Yidiyah. Look in the previous parentheses. Be Yidiyah Atzmos.
Knowing about them. Yidiyah. Hein they chutz l'mkemei.
Shebediyosan, that his knowledge of them.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying?
Yeah. His knowledge actually creates them. And knowledge is out of the Mekemei Atzmi.
Shebediyosan hein chutz l'mkemei. I would say not that way. It doesn't matter, because what difference does it make? It's their perspective, but it's how he sees their perspective. Fine. No.
Because he's going out of himself to create his world.
Yeah, but it doesn't change. This doesn't. Your son is clearly the perspective of the worlds. At most, you could say God is respecting that perspective, and He's also like seeing it that way. But you have to reconcile it with other parentheses. And what's the difference? Okay, fine. It doesn't change the pshat. It's clearly in of chutz l'mkemei.
Yeah. Not that we understand Atzmos, but Atzmos is more of a personality that's not here. We understand that this is Helen.
The more a person goes out of himself, the more...
Tell me the mashal. I need to know and what does the mashal add?
The mashal of the Adam?
Yeah. So you give them, you're giving two interpretations. Let's do with one that works with the nimshal.
Right, so I think the second one is
The mashal and nimshal don't work together. That's my problem here a
I
little.
think so. You can read according to the second interpretation.
I can't even translate the martial period.
Can you tell me the mashal in your own words? Let me hear. Maybe let's hear.
A person finds himself in a place, even in a city. He has a house, he lives there, but he doesn't feel comfortable, doesn't feel like he belongs there. Mm-hmm. So he's stuck there, but his atzmis is in that, and his atzmis. Why is he restless? Why does he feel he doesn't belong there? That comes from the Gbayis Achayis, because inside he feels something pushing him that you could do more. You don't belong here. You can't. It's coming from the Gbayis Achayis. It's restlessness.
Go on, but now goes the Isgalus part. This is where that part is so fine. I accept that.
So then the second line, what he says, that in that alone there's different levels of.
No, but now what? Tell me what's Bizgalus, what's not Bizgalus. That's what I want to know. That's where the problem is.
Right. So the more uncomfortable he is.
So what's Bizgalus now? Where he is, or his etzem is?
No. So his etzem is not really here.
So is that Bizgalus or Behelim?
The etzem is Behelim.
And where his Bizgalus is where he is.
In a place where he...
But that alone, there's levels. The more he feels comfortable in a place, the more he's going to be Bizgalus. His etzem is going to be Bizgalus.
His etzem?
Yeah.
But it just says etzem is not comfortable.
It's very uncomfortable. But there's levels in that. There's a place that he's totally uncomfortable. He really knows he doesn't belong there. His etzem is totally concealed. It's totally away.
And there are places where he can manage.
Where he feels that
how is that in the work in the nimshal?
Oh, so in the nimshal, it's the same thing. The higher it is to the source, it's closer to atzmis. It feels more comfortable. It's more natural.
So more Bizgalus.
More Bizgalus.
More himself. Yeah. More the atzmis.
Right, exactly.
But then there's one problem. There's a line that says.
And then there's total alignment in a place where he totally feels comfortable.
I got you. And then there's the place where his etzem is begili. That's completely from the perspective of atzmis.
That's when it feels.
So then there's no shalebim kemei.
Yeah.
No, and that's what
his total core. That's
what he said. The chlalus shalebim kemei and biskal.
And then he's going to be totally Bizgalus.
Rak bezegufa. Yes,
Bizgalus there in a place where he totally belongs and he's in alignment. So his inner core and his outer dimension is going to be totally in Bizgalus. He's going to be content. He's going to be serenity, relaxed. And his atzmis is not going to be concealed in any way. Like it says,
and the line hachiluku shabim kemehu bizgalus shleibim kemen bizgalus. That's what throws me.
Right. That's exactly the way I touched it. Place where he belongs, he's Bizgalus. He's Bizgalus. That means more of him is revealed. He's more in tune with the place. He feels like he belongs there.
So Achilukos Shabim Keme, where his etzem feels Bim Keme, he's Bizgalus.
Right.
And Shalei Bim Keme, where his etzem does not feel Bim Keme,
yes,
he's not Bizgalus.
Right.
That's what you're saying.
It's called Kach, because there's different levels.
Yeah. Fine.
If he's totally in a place where he feels totally Bizgalus.
Fine. That's how you're reading it. So Mekeme, see, my confusion was I read Mekeme means where he is, even though he doesn't like to be there.
Right.
But
then I right away saw
the point must be where he really wants to be.
Right, so that's the throwing. So that's the moshel has to be read differently. No, al derech moshel ba'adam sheyesh le Mekeme, a person has his place where he finds himself. Shunim tzisham. V'yachal yisatz musin nimtza shlei b'mekeme. And it could be that the etzem is not finding himself. It's not finding himself. Which, by the way, I also need explanation for. What does that mean?
Yes.
Why doesn't he feel like he belongs there? Why doesn't he feel
He
like
set up a system that he doesn't feel like. He made it like
Takberis Chayach is the words he used before that comes as an intensity.
Yeah.
He needs to put a special surge.
Yeah,
What's the surge here?
He's not superficial. On a superficial level, yeah, he's here, but
For him to be here.
no, the fact that he feels that he doesn't.
You're saying for him to be in this place, Shalebim Kemed, even though his essence doesn't belong here,
that's not.
he needs Takberis Chayach?
No, the fact that he feels that this is not his place, that's coming from the
No, that's not correct.
he set up a place that for him to feel that it's not. His
I don't
place.
think what you just said is
Two
correct.
different.
It's possible.
And that's also.
No, because Takberis Chayach is a word that he's using before that takes Atzmos to go into, to express himself outside of the Amshachas Atzmos in a place that's outside of himself. That requires Takberis Chayach. That's what he said till now.
It could be, yeah.
Okay, but fine.
Change the whole thing.
No, it does not change. One second, I just want to understand something. So Moshe Yeshlem Keme, he finds himself. It could be his Atzmos Yeshlem Keme. Okay. So he's right now in a place where his Etzem, basically this is the world. He's in the world. Atzmos is in the world. If a person is in a place, let's say in the Moshel, when a person is in a place where he is comfortable and his Etzem is comfortable, that's how Atzmos is in his own domain.
Yeah.
Correct? Let's just use two things. When a person is in a place, he's there, but his Etzem is not comfortable, that's how Atzmos is in the lowest world.
The lower.
In the lower. And then there's levels. Yeah, I understand the levels, but is that correct?
I think you have
Okay,
to
hold on. And for you to be in that place, that's Takberis Kayach. However you explain
Right.
it. Fine.
I
Good.
think you have to.
Hold on. Achiluk Shemekemihu Bizgalus. So Bizgalus is the Etzem Bizgalus. And Shlem Mekene Eina Bizgalus. So Gam Bezeh Yeshchum Shemokim Zeh Hu Bizgalus Yeser. Some places Mokim Zeh Sheina Bizgalus.
Right.
Okay, I began with the wrong foot, to be honest. I thought Mekeme meant that he reveals to the outside people, he's going through the motions. That's revealed. And his etzem is concealed. He's really meaning the opposite. His real him is revealed in another place. And where his real places. I was confused in Mekeme Shaleb Mekeme. I was just reading Mekeme Shaleb, but the truth is Mekeme Shaleb Mekeme begins with he finds himself there, but he's really not in his place. And in his place he's really revealed, and when he's not in his place he's not that revealed. Hold on. Then there's levels where some places more revealed, less revealed. Like an Atzilus is not an Atzmos, but God is more comfortable there because it's aligned. In Asiya, in a world of evil, and this, God will not be comfortable. It'll be far less revealed. No, it's like being at a party that you don't want to be at.
Feel like fresh, like it doesn't belong. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, hold on a second. And that's Baruch Kvei Davai Mim Keimei. Is how God has been Keimei, how He encompasses everything, and everything is His place, like He says in the parentheses. Yeah, He says we don't know that Mekayme Atzmi ve'ech. We don't know it. That's how He is in Himself. He sees it all. It's even higher than Yediyah. And then there's Yetzimim Keimei. What means God going out of His place? So He says that is B'chinas Izgalus Chutzlim Keimei. Means He reveals Himself outside of His place, Hainu Be'elamis in worlds. Should be just in Chutzlim Keimei Atzmi. Yeah. That's Ein Elam Keimei Sheyesh B'zeh Chilukim. So there's places where He feels a little more comfortable, so it's more revealed, or not so revealed. And that's the difference between the different levels of Torah. So the bottom line is the Torah's levels of Torah. This is not the fundamental medida, measurement of mitzvahs that he spoke earlier in Torah. This is already how Torah is coming into the levels of existence. How Torah is, however, a fundamental medida, that's how it is in Atzmos.
That's the thing, like
He's talking about Torah, not mitzvahs, though, right? He's talking about Torah.
When you Teres Atzilus,
No, Teres Atzilus, Teres Abriya is really an example of a Giluyim already.
of Atzmos.
Right.
Of Atzmos, however, going Shalebim
Doesn't
Keimei.
mean the Torah.
But it's going Shalebim Keimei. It's going to levels that are not.
Right.
It's a very, very dense piece, but it's really very relevant to the whole interface because he's coming back, like I said, he's want to show Gvul in Etzem. The Etzem is coming down to Gvul. So from the perspective of Atzmos, he always remains as Mekemi. From the perspective of existence, we can even say God's perspective also. I have no problem with Das Tacht and Yidiosan.
Right.
But for sure, it's Yidiosan not as God sees the world from through His eyes, it's God who sees the world through the world's eyes.
Right.
It's Chutzlam Keimei, which is Ein Elam Keimei. Okay, it's also 1 second. And there is levels of how much
And
revelation.
deeper level, it means it's not
And even there, he's bringing levels, bringing Giluyim. So you see here, really, I would think is Kav Hamida, Knei Hamida, and Teretz. All things are here. But there is Atzmiz Dik Medida. That's a very critical piece in this whole thing. We'll stop here because this needs to be absorbed. This is heavy stuff. So we finished the first half of page 159, the bottom of page 316, to the end of page, close to the bottom of page 317.